All right, this method is called high intensity continuous training, or HICT. Now, when most people think of high intensity training, of course, the first thing they think about is high intensity intervals. The difference, of course, in this one is that we're sustaining high intensity over longer periods of time, hence the continuous training. Now, the benefit to doing this is that these fast twitch, high threshold muscle fibers get work for longer periods of time, and thus they're able to improve their muscular endurance. So this method is primarily aimed at the muscular endurance side of things. Now, because of that, the heart rate is generally a little bit less important. You're typically going to see somewhere in the upper blue to maybe lower green zone, depending on the person and what exercise you're doing exactly. Now, in order to do this method properly, you're going to need to pick the right exercises. And unfortunately, there's not a huge range of exercises that work well, because we have to have something where we can really crank up the resistance and keep the pace relatively low in order to sustain that period of work over time. So the best way to do it is with a spin bike like this. The Kaiser spin bike in particular is a great one because you can adjust the resistance easily, but most spin bikes will work. So the setup here is simply to make sure that you crank the resistance up and you keep the RPM on the lower end. So you can see here, this is about a 29-30 RPM. You want to keep that somewhere in that 20 to 30 RPM range. And again, the most important thing is that you're sustaining that high intensity against that high resistance over an extended period of time. So typically you're going to use HICT for anywhere from about 5 up to 20 minutes. And what you'll find is that when you first start doing this method, you're not able to last very long. Your clients aren't able to go very long before they start to fatigue. But what you'll find is they quickly build up their conditioning, the local muscular endurance will improve relatively rapidly, and they'll be able to go from 3 minutes to 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and up to 20 minutes maximally. So again, you can see lower green here, anywhere from the mid to upper blue recovery range, or up to the lower mid range of the conditioning zone is the most important thing. As far as heart rate is concerned, as long as the pace is proper, that's typically going to take care of itself. So if you don't have access to a spin bike, you can also do an uphill lunge or a slow-paced step up. Now, the advantage of doing the bike here is that there's no eccentric load, so it can also work extremely effectively for high-performance recovery training by driving blood flow into those high-threshold muscle fibers, thus promoting recovery in muscle fibers that don't always get blood flow if you're only using low-intensity exercises. So again, the key here is just maximal resistance, extended period of time. You're going to want to pick a piece of equipment like the bike, preferably where you can do this high resistance over that extended period of time by controlling RPM. If you don't have that, again, an uphill lunge or a slow speed step up, although those will not work as well for recovery because there is an eccentric component to them. So as long as you're in those parameters, heart rate will take care of itself, 5 to 20 minutes or so, and this is a tremendously effective way to build local muscular endurance, which will then support overall conditioning.